Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's focus is on the vampire Lestat, the second book in Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles, and I really like this one. Okay, so for those few of you who have no idea about this book, let me enlighten you. So the vampire Lestat is what it says it is. You are learning about the backstory, the history of Lestat de Liancourt. It was a character who was introduced in the previous book, Interview with the Vampire. It's way better than Interview with the Vampire. So if you read that book and you were on the fence about it, or you liked it and you just didn't like the protagonist of that book, Louie, you're in luck because he hardly, if ever, shows up at all in this book. The book is completely focused on Lestat. In fact, Lestat is himself narrating the book. It's all first person from his perspective, so you get very close with him, experience all sorts of cool stuff with him, and it's just it's just a better book all around. It really is. Like, Anne Rice wrote a couple other books, at least a couple other books between Interview with the Vampire and the Vampire Lestat, and it really shows how much better she's gotten. It's more of the same thing, but it's just better. Just better. It's like, there's absolutely no negatives I have with this book at all. It's incredible. Pretty much the only way you're not gonna like this book is if you didn't like Interview with the Vampire to begin with, because it is more of the same thing. Probably the best thing about this book is, let me backtrack a little bit. Interview with the Vampire has a lot of questions, because being told from Louie's perspective, and he doesn't know a whole lot, pretty much most if not every single question that is posed by Interview with the Vampire is answered in the Vampire Lestat. I'm not kidding. It answers everything. And then, at least as far as I've noticed, the only questions that continue from this book into the next one is just whatever is basically trying to entice you to read the next book, which is great. It ties up all sorts of things. You learn exactly why Lestat keeps a lot of things from Louie. There's actually a very good reason. And, if you didn't already know that Louie is just someone who loves to whine and complain a lot, this book confirms it. Lestat is, in almost every single way, Lestat is so much different from Louie. He's far more positive of an individual, even though he does acknowledge the darkness in himself and others in the world around him. He's always willing to learn. If there's something that poses a question to him, he becomes entangled by it. He becomes obsessed with it, and he wants to know the answer. He's not. Louie was opposed to change. Like, he wanted everything to stay the same, everyone to accommodate him, and by comparison, Lestat is just like, you know what, people are going to be people, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and to hell with anyone who tries to stop me. You touch on some other characters a little bit. Louie, he doesn't show up until near the end of the book, because it's only at the end of the book that it touches on Interview with the Vampire a little bit, which, funny enough, Interview with the Vampire exists as its own book in this universe, if you didn't already know that by reading the first book, which makes it even more interesting. So there's mentions of Louie, he shows up a little bit. There's mentions of Claudia, though there isn't a strong focus on her, again, because that's at the end of the book, and Lestat just briefly summarizes his end of his point of view on that. There is a lot more introduced. You learn about the vampire who made him, and the group he's connected to, and through that he is introduced to Armand. So if you remember Armand from Interview with the Vampire, he shows up in this one as well. Most of the stuff in the Vampire Lestat occurs well before the events of Interview with the Vampire, so it's a lot of additional backstory, a lot of new stuff that was not in the previous book, so that's good. There's a few other characters that are mentioned by name, such as Pandora and Cayman, but again, they're only mentioned. It's one of those threads that leads into the third book. But probably the best thing about this book, even though Lestat is already pretty good himself, is that it introduces my personal favorite character in the entire series, Marius. And Lestat has a nice discussion and all that from Marius, learns all sorts of stuff about the history of vampires and the creation of vampires as Marius knows it. Then there's the fact that it's just, you really learn how gutsy this guy is. Like, it's not just, like, he literally doesn't give a shit what anyone else thinks. As if, I can't drive this home enough. It's like, he doesn't let anything stop him, no matter what the threat is. Whether it could kill him or kill someone else he knows. He's like, whatever, I'll figure out a way around it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. Easy 5 stars. Because, like, I was enthralled by this book from start to finish. I read through it. I read through it probably about as fast as Interview with a Vampire, almost. I think I might have to go back and check. Without a doubt, even though this is just the second book in the Vampire Chronicles, it is certainly Anne Rice at one of, if not her best. And even, I'm in the process of reading The Queen of the Damned right now, and I'm just, I mean, they're good. They're all good. It's like, I have a hard time thinking about what could possibly be bad about this series. One more thing I will mention, though, is I've seen it pop up online a little bit on Goodreads and whatnot. Should you read Interview with a Vampire before the Vampire Lestat? I would say it's not necessary, but you do, I feel, get a greater appreciation for the Vampire Lestat if you've read Interview with the Vampire first, especially with all the answers it provides to pretty much everything in Interview. So, that was my review for the Vampire Lestat. If you haven't already read it, do it. Just do it. Thanks for watching, and have a good one. Bye!